exactly 12:03 a.m., my phone began to vibrate in the darkness. The blue glow from the screen cut through my room, illuminating a name I hadn't seen in years. Eli. Mobile. My heart thudded as I stared, not daring to touch it. Eli had been my best friend, until the night he died in a crash a decade ago. I went to his funeral, stood over his closed casket, tossed in the letter he asked me to keep secret. After that, I deleted his number. No way it could still be in service. But last night, the call came again. Same number, same time. This time I couldn't resist. I pressed answer, and for a moment, there was only silence. Then I heard shaky, ragged breaths. A voice, distant and cold, whispered, "You left me." I dropped the phone. My heart hammered so loud I thought it would explode. Memories of our last night together spun in my mind. I should have been with him, but I'd lied to my parents, been caught, and grounded at home. He drove alone, never came back. Was this some sick prank, some hacker? But Eli's number had been scrubbed from my contacts, disconnected by his parents after the tragedy. The next night, my curiosity and horror mingled as I stared at my phone. Again, it rang at 3 minutes past midnight. I answered, hands shaking. This time, the voice was clearer, chilling me to the bone. "Why didn't you come with me?" The pain, the betrayal in those words pierced me. Every night the calls grew longer. The voice pressed on, relentless, digging up secrets only Eli could have known. My mind unraveled with each whispered truth. My childhood nickname, the old tree in my backyard, the relics hidden beneath its gnarled roots. Sleep fled from me. Terror took its place. Then, last night I heard, "Let me in." I snapped. I powered off my phone. Relief barely lasted before the landline, dead for years, shrieked through my house. With trembling hands, I answered. The same voice, closer, urgent. "You can't ignore me anymore." The lights flickered. My cell buzzed violently, lighting up with a single message. "Behind." Blood turned to ice as I realized I was not alone. I turned, breath caught in my throat. Then the line went dead. Ever since Emma's family moved into that imposing century-old Victorian house, something hung in the air. An unspoken warning, persistent and cold, as if the walls themselves knew secrets best left buried. Her parents had made it clear, above all else, there was one rule that trumped all others. She could roam every creaking passage, every sunlit room, but the basement door was off limits. Its heavy wood was scarred by age, locked 3 times with thick, rusted chains. A faded sign, its old ink smeared and bleeding at the edges, declared in scratchy letters, "Not a storage, not an exit, don't call what's inside." Emma, with her curious streak and fondness for urban legends, had rolled her eyes. She thought it was just another parental tactic, a gory story to keep nosy kids from getting hurt in a dangerous old house. Yet every night, as the wind wailed and board settled, she caught her parents glancing nervously at that door, lips pressed tight, the keys always hidden away. Still, nothing truly happened, so she pushed the warning aside. That is, until the night she heard a knock. The house was silent and still, everyone asleep, but from the floor beneath her bed. A dull, hollow thud echoed upward. It was the kind of sound that shudders through your bones and leaves your skin crawling with goosebumps. Emma froze beneath her blankets, heart hammering, listening as the darkness pulsed around her. Maybe it was just the pipes, or the wind, or rats, anything but what it felt like. But then it happened again, the next night, the same time, 2:47 a.m., one heavy knock, then two. On the third night, the sound was sharper, closer, and after the 3 precise knocks, there was something worse. A voice. It was dry and ragged, scraping like rusty nails across stone. "So cold. Let me out," it moaned. Emma tried to ask her parents. They smiled, too wide, too quick, their faces going pale. "Just old house noises," they insisted, but Emma saw their hands shaking as they double-checked the locks. Silence reigned at dinner, and shadows seemed to gather longer in corners. She began to dream every night of the door creaking open, a woman pale as bone, in a threadbare white dress, crawling slowly up the stairs with hair like a black veil, her face burning with 2 red, glowing eyes. The 7th night arrived, and Emma was already awake, eyes darting to her clock. At exactly 2:47 a.m., she heard 4 knocks now, each one heavier, more desperate. The room grew colder, her breath billowing in the air. She crept to her door, drawn by a force she couldn't explain. Down the creaking hallway, the locks on the basement door had all fallen open, scattered on the floor like broken teeth. The door was ajar, a crack wide enough for shadows to spill out. Emma's hand trembled as she took her flashlight and descended the decaying wooden steps. The air was so cold it burned in her lungs, thick with the rotten scent of earth, rust, and something old and metallic. She looked around. The basement was empty, almost entirely swallowed by darkness, except for one thing. An antique mirror loomed in the center of the room, shrouded with a black cloth that whispered as she approached, summoning a courage that felt borrowed. Emma yanked the cloth away. The reflective surface did not show her face. Instead, it showed another Emma. Gaunt, skin waxy and gray with hollow eyes the color of deep night, and a smile stretched too wide. Too wrong. That other Emma pressed her hand against the inside of the glass, eyes meeting Emma's with pitiless hunger. "Thank you for coming to replace me," she whispered. Emma's light flickered, and she blinked. The world spun. The temperature dropped in an instant, and she realized, with soul-crushing dread, that she was now on the other side of the mirror, looking out. Her voice refused to work as she saw the fake Emma step out, blinking curiously and holding her flashlight. The real Emma's scream was silent, sealed within the glass. Above, the basement door slammed with a thunderous clang. Outside, 3 new gleaming locks clattered into place. Now Emma waits in the dark behind the fractured glass, her breath fogging the wrong side of reality. She listens as the next knock echoes, sharp and eager, for the next unsuspecting soul who will dare open the forbidden door.
I saw my twin sister die, but her reflection never disappeared. When Lena died 10 years ago, everyone said it was an accident. She slipped by the lake, they claimed, a tragic drowning. But I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. She wasn't in the water. She was in front of the mirror, and she screamed, not for help, but for me to run. Lena and I were born identical. Same smile, same voice. But since we were 6, there was always something off. She would spend hours in front of the antique mirror our grandmother left us. A tall, oval thing with iron vines curling around the edges. Old, cold, it felt alive. One night, I woke up and saw her talking into it. She says she's like me, but better. After that, Lena changed. Her mood swung wildly. Her smile was always delayed, and her reflection, sometimes it blinked out of sync. Our parents thought it was just stress, but then came the scratches on the glass from the inside. Then Lena disappeared. Police found a ribbon by the lake. They buried an empty casket. I moved on, or tried to. At 17, I left that cursed house and moved into a dorm. I thought the nightmares would stop, but then the mirror showed up. It arrived in a crate. No note, no return address. The same mirror, the iron vines, the glass slightly cracked, just like the day Lena vanished. That night, strange things started. My roommate swore I stood over her bed at 3 a.m. I didn't. The reflection in my bathroom moved on its own, smiling before I did. And in every mirror I passed, there were two of me. I tried smashing the mirror. It didn't break. I covered it with sheets, but every morning it was uncovered, and someone had written, "Let me out," on the glass. Then came the call. A static-laced voice whispered, "She's waiting, Sarah. She never left." I returned to the attic of our childhood home. The mirror stood where it always had, and Lena was inside it, not dead, not alive. Her body was still 10 years old, her face pale, her eyes bleeding. It took me. It wanted a twin. It needs a body. I held it back. But I'm getting weaker. I touched the mirror, cold as death. And then I saw myself. But it wasn't me. She smiled wider, too wide, like a doll unhinged. Her eyes were black. Her mouth whispered without sound. I tried to pull away, but my hands were no longer moving. From inside the mirror, Lena screamed, "Don't let it trade places." Too late. The next morning, she returned to school. Same voice, same walk, same face. But she never blinked, never slept. My roommate was found dead 3 days later, eyes wide open, mouth full of glass shards. Everyone said I was acting strange, colder, wrong-handed, but no one questioned it. I looked exactly like me. Now I sit, trapped behind this cursed glass, watching her walk free. She's learning. She's better, smarter, more human, and every night she whispers into the mirror, "Find me another twin."
I checked into room 404. It wasn't on the website, not on the hotel map. The clerk told me that room doesn't exist. But someone or something let me in, and now every time I wake up, I'm still in that room. My name's Evan Carter. I travel for a living, sales mostly. I've been in more hotels than I can count, but none of them ever made me feel like I wasn't supposed to exist. I was driving through Michigan past midnight during a storm. Roads were flooded, GPS died. So I took the nearest exit and found this old moss-covered hotel called the Red Pine Lodge. Neon sign flickering like it wanted to give up. Inside, the lobby was stuck in the 1970s. Faded wallpaper, dusty chandeliers, and a single man behind the counter who looked like he hadn't blinked in years. I asked for a room. He hesitated, Then, without a word, slid a key across the counter. Brass, heavy, marked 404. I raised an eyebrow. Your website said you only had 3 floors. He stared at me with dead eyes and muttered, "We don't usually give that room out." The elevator had buttons for floors 1 to 3, no 4, so I took the stairs. On the 4th landing, there was a hallway, dark, musty, and strangely warm. The carpet looked untouched. At the far end was the only door, room 404. The key turned slowly, like something didn't want me inside. The room was still, too still. Old wallpaper peeled from the corners. A single painting hung crooked above the bed. A girl in a red dress, face smudged out. There were no windows, just blackout curtains nailed to the wall, and in the corner a rotary phone, unplugged, yet gleaming. I lay on the bed, but couldn't sleep. The air was thick, hard to breathe. At 2:04 a.m., the phone rang. It wasn't connected, but it rang, loud, sharp, endless. I answered. A woman's voice whispered, "You weren't supposed to find me." I tried to leave. The door wouldn't budge. The knob burned cold. The bathroom mirror was fogged from the inside, but no steam. Behind me, the lights flickered, then went black. Footsteps, soft, wet, dragging. The girl in the painting, she wasn't in it anymore. The rotary phone lit up again, glowing red. It started ringing without sound. Then the whispers came back, louder now, surrounding me. "You saw what you shouldn't have seen. You stayed in a room that doesn't exist. Now you don't either." I must have passed out. When I woke, it was morning. Room 404 was quiet. The door opened like nothing happened. I rushed down to the lobby, heart racing. "Who else has that room?" I asked. "Who was the girl? What happened in there?" The clerk looked confused. "We don't have a room 404, he said. "We never have. That floor burned down 30 years ago." I demanded to see the guest book. My name was listed, but next to room 304. "But I still have the key," I said. I opened my fist. It was gone. Behind me, the elevator dinged. I turned and saw the button 4 lit up for the first time. The doors slid open slowly. The same hallway, the same shadows, and a voice from within called my name. "Evan, check back in." Have you ever heard a closet whisper your name in the dead of night? No? Well, maybe you're lucky, or maybe you just haven't heard it yet. Some stories aren't shared in daylight. They lurk in the shadows, waiting for silence to fall. Last summer, I moved into an old apartment. It seemed ordinary enough at first. Quaint, a little creaky, but comforting. Except for the closet in my bedroom. There was something about it that was off. Something I couldn't quite name. Every night, just as the world outside went silent and darkness pressed against my window, I'd hear it. Whispers, impossibly soft, weaving through my dreams and pulling me half awake. At first I chalked it up to tiredness, the hum of old pipes, the shuffle of rats maybe. But these were voices, calling my name, each time a little louder, a little closer, never angry or urgent, just yearning. Driven by dread and curiosity, I told myself it was nothing. Yet the nightly whispers bled into my days. I'd sense movement at the edge of my vision, or hear breaths behind closed doors. When I tried recording the mysterious sounds, my hands trembling, my phone captured something words cannot describe. Upon playback, the voice was no longer a whisper, but a clear plea. "Let me out." One rain-soaked night, I gathered every ounce of courage and opened the closet door wide. Instead of faded shirts and empty hangers, I found a darkness that seemed bottomless, stretching farther than the apartment itself. The air turned glacial, thick and suffocating. Suddenly, icy fingers locked around my wrist, squeezing tightly. Hard hammering, I tried to break free. The last thing I remember is a voice, colder than the grave, murmuring, "Now you're mine." The door slammed shut. I haven't slept in that room since. And now, every closet I pass, I wonder if something inside is waiting and whispering my name. Lily hadn't set foot in her childhood home for 15 years, not since the night her mother disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a silence that crept into every corner of her memory. Life moved on, or at least pretended to, until a letter arrived one rainy afternoon. Unfamiliar, sealed with wax, it contained only 8 unsettling words. "Go to the attic. She's still waiting there," unease tangled with a compulsion she couldn't understand, pulling her through the weed-choked garden, past peeling doors, and up the stairs, whose every step echoed with old ghosts. Finding the attic door barring her way, hammered shut with rusted nails, Lily's heart hammered in her chest. She pried it open, shards of ancient wood splintering beneath her hands. Cold air rolled out in a wave, and in the shadowed corner she saw it, a porcelain doll seated upright in a small wooden chair, its eyes impossibly lifelike, its mouth sewn closed with black thread. Around its delicate neck, a familiar band gleamed, her mother's wedding ring. The doll was heartbreakingly beautiful, sorrow painted on its cheeks as tears, and a faded blue ribbon tied around its throat. Despite the fear prickling down her spine, Lily felt herself inexplicably drawn to it. She took the doll home, unable to shake its tragic gaze. That night, dreams returned, brittle and vivid. For the first time in years, her mother's face appeared, not pleading, but screaming, wild-eyed and desperate. Over and over again her mother's voice rang in her ears, a warning desperate enough to shake the windows. "Don't let her speak. Don't let her speak." She woke sweating, heart pounding. Dawn's pale light cast odd shadows in her room. The air felt oppressive, heavy with things unsaid. Rising, Lily noticed something was different. The doll, supposed to be zipped inside her bag, now sat upright on the nightstand, its glassy eyes watching her. The threads that had sewn its lips shut now lay in a tangled heap on the floor. Its mouth had opened, but nothing moved within. From that moment, Lily's world began to unravel. Each night, precisely at 2:13 a.m., a soft, wordless humming threaded through her dreams, wrapping around her mind like a spider's silk. It was her mother's lullaby, the one she'd sung on sleepless nights all those years ago. Lily began to wake in strange places, sometimes standing at the attic's threshold, with the doll cradled in her arms, other times frozen mid-hallway, lips humming without her consent. She became obsessed with the doll as it began to change before her eyes. Fine cracks appeared in the perfect porcelain, spreading wider with each passing day, as if something beneath the surface was struggling to break free. Sometimes, in the crumbling fractures, she glimpsed a second face, mouth agape in silent, unending scream. Terrified, Lily tried everything to rid herself of the thing. She buried it beneath the willow tree in the garden, watched as fire licked at its painted skin, hurled it into the river behind the house. But always, impossibly, the doll returned, closer, watching, its cracks spreading. Desperate for answers, she searched the house's hidden spaces and found, at last, an old letter written by her grandmother. The trembling lines revealed the family's haunted legacy. The doll is not cursed. It is cursed because it speaks for those taken. It holds what they couldn't say. Your mother tried to free it and was taken in return. It was never about anger or vengeance. It was about memory, about words left unspoken. All those vanished before her, unheard, imprisoned, screaming beneath fragile porcelain. That night, Lily brought the doll back to the attic. She set it upon the dusty floor and perched on her knees, her shadow small in the gloom. Trembling, she leaned forward and whispered, "I'm listening." The gold doll turned, its mouth opened impossibly wide. From the dark well inside, something ancient and hungry began to crawl out. Too many hands, too many voices, a cascade of captive memories seeking release. And Lily realized, too late, that the silence had only ever been the beginning. At exactly 2:10 a.m., Jamie pressed the button for the 9th floor. She was alone in the hotel elevator. At least, she thought she was. The old elevator groaned, its lights flickering. Then, the panel glitched. The number 9 blinked erratically before switching to Berdine. But there was no 13th floor. The hotel didn't have one. Everyone knew that. The elevator jerked to a stop. The doors opened with a groan. Beyond them, a hallway cloaked in darkness, pulsing faint red like something breathing. Jamie should have stayed inside, but when she turned to press close, the buttons were gone, and the elevator had vanished. The hallway was impossibly long, stretching into shadow, cold, silent. The air tasted like dust and iron. Along the hallway were 7 doors, each marked only by a Roman numeral, door Y. A nursery, but instead of toys, rows of porcelain dolls lined the shelves. They all had the same face, hers. One turned its head slowly toward her as she stepped back in horror. Door 2. A flickering living room. Her parents sitting on a couch, rotting corpses, moving like puppets, whispering her name through unmoving jaws. "Jamie, why did you leave us?" Door 3. A mirror, no frame, just a dull liquid surface in the middle of the room. She stared, and her reflection smiled. Then the reflection stepped out. Jamie slammed the door shut before it crossed the threshold. Door 4. Her childhood bedroom. But something was breathing under the bed, deep, slow inhales. When she knelt down to look, it had her eyes. Panicked, Jamie ran to the end of the hallway where the last 3 doors waited. Door 5. A hospital room. Machines beeped. Herself on the bed. She was dying, hooked to a machine, and a nurse turned to her and whispered, "This is your last chance to leave." She turned around to run, but the hallway was gone. Door 6. The hotel lobby, but everyone was frozen, unmoving like statues. When she looked closer, each had empty eye sockets, mouths stretched open in a silent scream. One of them was her. She opened the final door, door 7, and saw a wall of security monitors. Each screen showed her over and over, exploring the hallway, dying in different ways, falling, burning, being dragged, screaming. One screen showed right now, her standing in front of the monitors. A low, grinding voice filled the room. Every step forward creates another version of you. Welcome to the loop. She turned, and the elevator was back. But inside was herself, fresh face, stepping in for the first time. Jamie screamed, but there was no sound. From inside the monitor, she watched the elevator close. The number panel blinked once. 13. And in the hallway, one more door opened. This time, Jamie was on the other side of it, waiting. Every night at exactly 3:00 a.m., Emma heard whispers rising from her kitchen sink. Not the creaking of old pipes, not the hum of appliances. Whispers. And last night, for the first time, the voice whispered her name. Emma, can you hear us? She lives alone. Emma, a 28-year-old freelance illustrator, had just moved into an old apartment complex downtown. The rent was suspiciously cheap for such a big unit, but she figured it was because the building was from the 1940s. By the third night, she noticed it. Every morning, her sink was wet, though she hadn't used it. The drain gurgled like it was breathing. Sometimes, she heard faint clicking sounds, like nails tapping metal. One day, she asked her upstairs neighbor, Mr. Halverson, about the noises. He just stared at her for a long moment and said, "If you hear voices, don't talk back." The next day, he vanished. His door was left wide open. No furniture, no trace, like he had never lived there. On the 7th night, the whispers returned, louder. "Emma, we see you. We're hungry." Terrified but curious, Emma leaned over the sink and whispered, "Who are you?" Silence. Then, splash. A wet, skeletal hand reached up just for a moment, grabbing at the edge before vanishing down the drain. She screamed and backed away, but the sink went still. The next day, she called maintenance. They shrugged and said, "That unit's always been weird. Some say it's cursed. We just fix what we can." That night, the whispers didn't wait until 3:00 a.m. They started at 2:15, then 1:30, then midnight. And now, they weren't just whispering, they were laughing. Emma started researching. She found an old article from 1987. 3 children drowned in apartment 3C. Kitchen sink overflowed. No water source found. Pipes led nowhere. That was her unit. The photo showed the same metal sink with a cracked porcelain basin. Desperate, she set up a camera pointed at the sink. That night, she didn't sleep. At 3:00 a.m., the footage caught something horrifying. The drain widened unnaturally. A childlike shape climbed halfway out, its eyes hollow, skin waterlogged and split. It looked around and whispered, "She's listening now." Then it slowly turned and smiled at the camera. Emma tried to move out the next day, but when she opened her front door, there was only darkness. The hallway was gone. Her apartment had become something else. The sink gurgled louder now, like it was feeding. At 3:00 a.m., she heard them again. "You let us out, Emma. Now, let us in." That was the last anyone saw of her. When police came weeks later, Apartment 3C was found empty, dusty, like no one had lived there for decades, except the sink. It was wet, still dripping, and if you listen closely, it still whispers. When Emma took a weekend babysitting job in the woods, she thought the only thing she'd be watching was cartoons and bedtime routines. She didn't expect a red door no one was allowed to open, or a little girl who whispered to mirrors after 3 a.m. She also didn't expect that the child she was watching might not be the only one in the house. Emma, a college freshman, takes a weekend babysitting job at an old Victorian mansion deep in the woods, owned by the reclusive but wealthy Grayson family. When she arrives, Mrs. Grayson greets her coldly, handing her a handwritten list titled, "Rules while in this house, never go to the 3rd floor. Do not open the red door at the end of the hallway. If Lily talks to the mirror, look away. After 3 a.m., do not leave the living room no matter what you hear. Never ask Lily about her sister." Emma laughs it off, assuming the old woman is just eccentric, but the seriousness in Mrs. Grayson's eyes as she leaves tells a different story. Lily is a pale, quiet 6-year-old with blank eyes and a voice barely above a whisper. As soon as Mrs. Grayson leaves, Lily looks at Emma and murmurs, "She doesn't like strangers." Emma nervously asks, "Who?" Lily doesn't answer. At dinner, Lily keeps glancing upward as if watching something crawl along the ceiling. During playtime, she builds a house of blocks, placing 2 identical girls inside, one with burnt hair. Later that night, Emma tucks Lily into bed. The room is filled with antique mirrors. Lily whispers, "Don't let her out. The mirrors are meant to keep her in." Around 2:30 a.m., Emma hears soft laughter echoing through the house. Not Lily's laughter, but something hollow. Following the sound, she finds herself on the 2nd floor, facing the red door slightly ajar. Behind it, silence. Until knocking, 3 slow knocks. From the inside, suddenly, Lily appears at the end of the hallway, eyes wide. "She wants to play with you." Emma spins around to face Lily, but in the hallway mirror beside her, there are 2 little girls. In reality, only one is there. Emma rushes downstairs and tries to call for help, but there's no signal. Frantic, she searches the house and finds an old family photo album tucked beneath the stairs. One picture makes her blood run cold. 2 identical girls, Lily and Clara. Photo dated 1993. A quick online search reveals a newspaper article. Clara Grayson, age 6, presumed dead after mysterious fire. Last seen in the house with her twin sister, Lily. Body never recovered. Family claimed Clara still spoke through mirrors. Mother diagnosed with psychosis. But Lily is only 6 years old now. That's impossible. Unless the mirrors around the house begin to crack, one by one. Then she sees it. Clara, face half burned, crawling from a mirror in the hallway, eyes black, fingers clawing the wooden floor. Emma grabs Lily and bolts to the front door, only to find thick iron chains locking them in from the outside. 3:14 a.m. From the direction of the living room, the red door slowly creaks open. Ice-cold air floods the hall. The lights flicker. Clara steps out of the shadows, grinning, her voice echoing like a broken lullaby. "She forgot to sing me to sleep 30 years ago. Tonight, I'll sing her to sleep forever. Emma screams as mirrors begin to shatter all around her. The house groans. The lights die. The next morning, police arrive after Mrs. Grayson reports something wrong. They find no sign of Emma. But inside Lily's bedroom, sitting by the mirror, are two identical porcelain dolls, their eyes cracked, one slightly burned, on the mirror smeared in red. One dreams, one watches, neither leaves. Rachel had only lived in her new apartment for a week when she first noticed the man. He was standing perfectly still in the window of the building across the narrow alley, not doing anything, just watching. At first, she thought he was just curious. New neighbors often attract glances, but the next day and the day after that, he was still there. Same posture, same dark silhouette. Only at night, only when all other windows were dark. Rachel tried to ignore it, until she realized his window didn't reflect light. It didn't reflect anything. Rachel had moved to the city for a fresh start. The old town held too many memories, some tragic, some unspeakable. Her new apartment was modest, but had a view of an alley and the building across. She worked from home, often late into the night, and that's when the man became more frequent. She asked the building manager about the unit across. No one's lived there for years, the old man said, voice low. Top floor's been empty since the fire. Rachel stared at the window again that night. The man was there. She lifted her phone and took a picture, but when she checked the image, the window was empty. The man didn't move. He never blinked, and yet Rachel started hearing things. Whispers, faint tapping on glass when her curtains were drawn. Once she thought she heard someone calling her name, but the voice came from inside her apartment. Her cat, Luna, hissed at the window and refused to go near it. Rachel confided in her friend Maya, who stayed over one night. It's probably just your imagination, Maya said. Until midnight came. She screamed when she saw the man too, but when they called the police, he was gone. The apartment across was cold, covered in dust and cobwebs. The power line had been cut long ago. That night, Rachel dreamed of the man walking down the alley. But when she woke, muddy footprints led from the hallway to her window. Rachel became obsessed. She researched the building across the alley. There had indeed been a fire. 10 years ago, a man named Victor Holm had died. A recluse, a strange painter who rarely left his apartment. Rumors said he painted only one subject, a woman he watched from his window. A local forum post chilled Rachel to the bone. I lived across Victor. He watched me too. I moved away. But I still see him. He doesn't stop. He never does. Rachel's mirror began acting strange. Her reflection would lag behind, or smile when she wasn't. One night, she caught the man in the window pointing into her room. The next day, her bathroom mirror had the word. Rachel tried to flee, but the building wouldn't let her go. The elevator stopped working. The doors jammed. Neighbors claimed they never saw her move in. One neighbor said, "Someone like you lived here before. A girl with dark hair. She vanished after staring too long into that window." Rachel smashed her mirror. Inside the wall behind it was a cavity. Inside, old paintings of her sleeping cooking, crying, dated months before she ever moved in. Victor Holm hadn't just watched her, he remembered her. Rachel tried one last time to escape. She blacked out in the hallway. When she woke, she was standing in the window of the building across. Now, every night, a light turns on in her old apartment. A young woman sits at her desk, typing, and Rachel watches her from across the alley, just like he once watched her. Optional closing narration for voiceover. We all look through windows, but sometimes something looks back, and if it watches long enough, it replaces what it sees.